Hello, and welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons, the weekly podcast that revisits, reviews, and ridicules some of the world's weirdest animated series. I am going to be your host for this bonus episode. I am, of course, Sean Paul Ellis. This episode in particular is going to be a little bit out of order, but we're presenting it to you guys with great pride and excitement that you're going to be as excited as we were to record this. A couple weeks ago, they released all 13 episodes of Netflix and DreamWorks Animation's new show, Voltron Legendary Defender. We had a chance to talk about it, and you can check out the episode. It was released this past Monday. In our excitement about the show, Dave and I took to Twitter, and it turns out that one of the voice actors, Mr. Neil Kaplan, was paying attention, and we had an opportunity to strike up a conversation. This eventually led to us being able to do an interview with him. So today we are going to have an interview with Neil Kaplan, myself, Dave Trumbore, and Max Nicholson from Collider, as well as also IGN. Please enjoy this interview from Saturday Morning Cartoons with Neil Kaplan, who voices King Zarkon from Voltron Legendary Defender.
It's certainly interesting because I'm learning about social media, quite frankly, because the response on Facebook seems a lot more negative than the response on Twitter. Well, because the thing is that the response on Facebook, you go to the Voltron Facebook page, you can see all the messages that are put up there. Now granted, I'm kind of trolling a little bit on Twitter, I see a lot of the comments that just hashtag Voltron, or Voltron Legendary Defender.
Right.
And on Twitter, they're overwhelmingly good, but on Facebook, people are focusing on things like, well, but why is Zarkon purple now? Why doesn't Zarkon have a nose? Where's the theme song? Where's the narration? And they're missing these wonderful characters that Joaquin and Lauren have put together. Now, I don't want to get into a conversation with these people because then I'll just, it'll be misconstrued or misunderstood, or it'll be portrayed the wrong way. So it's one of those things where I'm really only trying to engage the positive fans. It's like, look, I was saying to my friend over lunch today, there hasn't been a single Superman movie ever made in my lifetime that hasn't disappointed me in one way or another.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
However, and I'm going to be 50, so that includes all the Christopher Reeve movies.
Right.
Wow.
Okay? There's an element, but I sit there and say, but this is what they made. And I can either hate it and miss out, or I can like it because overwhelmingly there are so many more things about it that I love than the one or two things that I don't.
Exactly. And that's the thing that Max and I deal with on a daily basis. And Sean, who's now on the call as well, he's
Hey,
improv.
Sean.
Hi, Neil. Thank you
He's
so
an
much for
improv
joining
actor.
us.
My pleasure, guys.
Yeah, so we all kind of deal with that sort of feedback. And yeah,
You know what,
never engage in a social media discussion or conversation with those people, because you can't win, because
Right.
they'll never let it go.
Exactly.
Right. Well, and it's just, look, I mean, I'm not to get too political, but I'm dealing with a couple of friends who are Bernie or Busters, and I'm sitting there and just saying, forest for the trees, guys. Forest for the trees here.
I'm running on the platform of what would Zarkon do. So
There you go. That's not a bad. Well, but it's along the lines of, and it's how I try to play Zarkon, is he's not evil. He's not looking. I mean, I don't think we've ever heard him talk about destroying things. He's just trying to get the lions and put the galaxy in the order that he believes is right.
sure.
And to make a villain accessible to the audience, I think you really have to play up the idea that villains are the heroes in their own stories.
Definitely. Yeah.
But it's like getting back to my whole thing with Superman. In 78, I hated the look of Krypton. I wanted the look from the comic books, that future with everything having fins on it. You know, like helmets had fins and the shoulder pads had fins, and that whole 60s futuristic look. That's how Krypton was supposed to be. Well, now I'm almost 50 and I watch Superman and I go, you know, the design doesn't bother me that much.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Right.
it's grown on me. There's really only one thing from Superman, the original Superman, that I still hate. And it's the only thing that they've seemed to glom onto and hold on to ever since. And that's this whole idea that the guy just happens to be wearing a thing on his chest that looks like an S.
Exactly. Well, now it's a
Right.
symbol for hope, right?
Well, sure, but
Sure.
even back in '78, you remember looking at Marlon Brando in those scenes wearing the tinfoil outfits, those crazy. By the way, one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in my life was seeing that costume in person at Comic-Con a couple of years ago.
Cool.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Because you look at it without any lighting effects, and it's just like this plain cloth.
Sure.
And you look at it and go, he looks like a mummy. That's weird. So I took a picture of it. Then I took a picture of it with a flash. And the light hit all the reflective stuff on the costume, and suddenly it was the movie. Suddenly it was totally reflective, and I'm just going, no way.
That movie magic.
It totally was. I swear to you, it totally was. It was like one of my greatest Comic-Con moments ever as a fan. As you guys can tell, I'm not just the president. I'm also a member. You know what I mean?
No, I was
Right.
just about to say I can definitely feel your fandom kind of coming through, and I know that Sean, Max, and myself are all we're new, new fans that have just come through the crucible that is this new series, and I know we definitely have a lot of questions for you. So
Yeah, we can roll anytime. Why waste
so-
all this gold?
oh, good stuff. Well, we got you on record, so we're good. So Sean, do you have a question to start off?
Sure. I was just curious, Neil. Can you talk a little bit about the process of getting into character, especially for Zarkon? I know that you've played a lot of storied characters throughout your career, and so is it something where how did you get into Zarkon's head?
Basically, I got the piece for an audition, which included the original artwork and a description of the character, and the description saying we are not looking for sound-alikes for the original show. We are looking for original takes, which for me was a good thing because I am so old that Voltron hit at such a time that I really wasn't watching much TV, let alone much animation. And if I was watching animation, it was usually the Disney afternoon stuff, DuckTales and that sort of thing. So I had no problem with it. I just went off of the description of the character, and they wanted something big and powerful and animalistic and and yet smart at the same time. And so basically what I do is I play the movie in my head. I'm really just being a 6-year-old and imagining I'm Zarkon. This is my ship. This is my galaxy. These are my troops. This is what I need. And I don't have to search for the words in my head because the words are right in front of me on the page.
Right.
So it's mostly about just being in that headspace, allowing the dialogue to kind of flow from the page through your eyes, through your brain, and out your mouth, and hopefully not getting in the way of that. I tell my students all the time that acting is just pretending on the highest level, and voiceover is even more pretending, because unlike if I was making a movie, I can't look around and see the set.
Right.
I'm not looking down at my boots, and feeling like, yeah, I feel like Zarkon. Look at my giant space boots.
Right.
It's not even mocap where I'm sitting there and feeling the imitation gun in my hand. Zarkons.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's all theater of the mind. And so it's just, I just go in feeling like I don't ask questions. I just tell people what to do.
I like that job.
And to your point, the large, powerful, animalistic presence, I definitely got that in the episodes that I've watched Zarkon in, and it's fantastic. I was kind of a little bit curious. I know that in some cases, the Voltron, the Paladins, they've had a little bit more of an opportunity for comedic effects. Do you think that at the end of the day that Zarkon kind of goes back and then he takes off his armor and he kind of gets a chance to kind of cut loose a little bit, that he's actually sort of a jovial kind of humorous character? Like, he would tell a dad joke to a close group of friends and just kind of...
Nope.
No, not at all.
Nope.
Shut it down.
I'm sorry to not let you get all the way to the question mark on your question, but no, I think he's got too many things on his mind. He's got too many plans. He's got too much stuff that needs to happen to get the galaxy back in order, or also in this case, to get something that's been a pursuit for 10,000 years.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when it's like, look, you ever been driving home and you kind of got to go pee? And so that last half mile is just brutal.
It's the worst.
Because your body senses, we're there, man, we're there. Well, you don't sit there and tell a joke. You don't sit there and distract yourself. I mean, you don't even try to distract yourself because you're so focused on distracting yourself. Does that make
Zarkon
sense?
is all business, all the time.
Yep.
I love
it. Exactly. It's just, this is what's gotta get done. And even then, I think he's the kind of guy that maybe would sit in his royal box and maybe watch the play or watch, the Royal Opera or whatever the art presentation was, but he'd only be there physically. Mentally, he'd be sitting there working something else out. He just, I don't, it's almost like that. I liken him a lot, I think only because of the structure of evil, as it were, but I liken him a lot to Palpatine, both Senator and Emperor. And there was even that scene where, Palpatine and Anakin are talking at an opera. And of course, nobody turns around and shushes him because, hello, he's like the dude in charge. He's the head of the Senate. So you sit there and go, it's all right. He talks a lot. But, look at the play. Look at the play. So I Zarkon probably doesn't talk in the middle of the opera, not because he cares about the opera, but mostly because he doesn't think he has to talk to anybody. Right. He'll just tell people what to do. I mean, there's no machinations with him.
I like it.
That's the difference between the mind games that Palpatine had to play to set everything in motion. Zarkon's just brute force and charm, charisma.
Very cool.
Very
Max,
cool.
Want to make sure you get a question in there too.
Sure, yeah. Well, I was curious. It's like this show in particular, I think, is sort of unique in that all these episodes are coming out at once and it's on Netflix. I'm wondering, what was your process like working with Joaquin and Lauren on this, and exactly how long did it take to record your lines, and like what was that experience like? Did it change the way you approached recording this in terms of working off the Netflix model?
From my standpoint, not at all. Not in the least. From my standpoint, it's pretty much, I got a phone call. I auditioned for it last year. I mean, not last year, early or middle of 2014, I think. Got a call toward the end of 2015 from my agent saying, that thing you auditioned for, Voltron, they want you to play Zarkon.
Nice.
And it's like, I've read stories about how some of the Paladins were brought back callbacks. Some of the paladins were brought in to read with each other. Some other actors were recorded an episode and then didn't work out and things. Just all these different things. And it's like, I guess they wanted to work everything out with the paladins because they are the cornerstone of the show.
Sure.
So that makes sense. Let's wait until we've got all this chemistry together. You know, we've got the heart of our show really set, which, frankly, I am constantly impressed with the cast that's around me that they put together. I mean, they're all talented actors. That's a given, you know, but there are a lot of talented actors in town. I know a lot of very talented voice actors, but the cast that they put together, their energies as human beings blend so well together, and their voices just go together like the gears of a machine. They don't step, the tonal qualities don't step on each other. I'm never sitting there and wondering, hey, was that Lance or was that Hunk? Because I always know, you know, and you're not wondering if it's Keith or it's Shiro. You can tell the difference between their voices. You can tell the difference between their energies, you know. And I mean, I can't imagine that they designed a character any closer to Ty than Hunk. I mean, those two are just symbiotic. It's crazy, you know. And then I go back here over the weekend. I've gone back and I've looked at the script, you know, and I've looked at Karan, and I've listened to what Reese has done, and
it's amazing.
Oh, I mean,
so good.
He takes these black pieces of type off this white page and turns it into rainbow Skittles with you know, like carbonation. It's so wonderful, and you can feel the interplay between Lance and Karan and Lance and Keith. I mean, I'm just so fortunate. Hopefully they won't hear this, you know, or they'll think that I'll do this show for free in the future, you know, but don't tell anybody. Sure. I'm loving it. You know, I mean, from the first day I walked in and saw that's Cree Summer.
Yeah.
That's Cree Summer. You know, who I think there have been, I don't know, I'm pretty sure she's been in 35% of all animated stuff produced in this town over the last couple of decades. And as talented as I thought she was, she's a better person.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I know it doesn't sound like it because I'm a big bad guy and I've always got to come across as being really in charge and sure of myself. But working on Voltron has been such an amazing learning process for me. Coming from doing mostly video games and anime over the last, you know, decade and a half, you know, I mean, it's so wonderful when we do get to record together as a cast. And I get to listen to the simplicity of what Josh Keaton does as Shiro. It's so simple, but it is so not easy what he does. I mean, just the basic, for lack of a better term, hero-ness that he brings to the role, you know, that's just evident in every syllable that comes out of his mouth.
So that's interesting too, that you actually get to record together. Is that normal for you? Don't you normally kind of just, it's like a solo process kind of in the booth?
But this is original animation. I know it doesn't look like it because it looks like it's anime. It looks like it came from Japan.
Sure.
And that we dubbed it. But the one thing that's different is the lip flaps match.
Right. No, you can tell the quality is fantastic. Yeah.
Because we didn't dub a thing.
Right.
We recorded it first. And see, what happens when you do that is then you get Jeremy being able to be more Lance, and maybe he adds an extra syllable to a word because that's the way Lance would pronounce it, or he adds a little extra. I mean, human Foley, the stuff we do every day, which you can't do in anime because there's no room because it doesn't fit the flaps.
Right.
So you get these really talented actors being able to get to know the characters, and then after that, be the characters.
That's really cool. I feel like that's a rare thing. I mean, you make a good point that it's original animation, but it just seems from people that, I mean, Max, correct me if I'm wrong, but other voice actors that I've talked to, it just seems like such a rare thing to actually get to interact with your full cast.
Well, I mean, you look, there were only a couple of times that it was everybody, because we're talking about quite a few of them are working on-camera actors.
Sure.
And so they've got 2 careers going on. So a couple of things that can go on is they can do the cast record and then, for lack of a better explanation, Skype that person in from somewhere else. I mean, it's better technology, but we'll just say Skype them in.
Right.
And then it's like, it means basically if you're reading your script, it sounds exactly like Steven is there as opposed to Atlanta working on another job.
Right.
Okay. Then, I think after the first couple of episodes, it's like after everybody kind of got comfortable, things were broken down a bit more in scenes. So I may go a couple of weeks without really seeing, Josh or without seeing Jeremy, but I would see Cree because our scenes are together.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And so it's easier rather than, okay, Neil, we need you for 4 hours on Thursday to record the entire episode with everybody.
Right.
It's like, we need you for 40 minutes.
Well, that's a good question. Then how long did it take you to really finish up all of Zarkon's dialogue? Because he's obviously not quite as he doesn't have quite as many lines as the core characters. Right.
No. That's really kind of hard to quantify because it was over such a long period of time.
Okay.
And of course, you lay down the dialogue for the original script, but then there are times that during the editing process, the scene gets trimmed, the scene gets changed, they rewrite something because now they have 6 episodes in the pipeline, and it's like, okay, we have to change this one fact because it comes into play differently later, and then we go back and we do ADR.
Right.
So maybe Zarkon says a different line when he's got his back to the camera, so we're covering that, or they cut away during the middle of his speech, and so now we're taking that information and we're changing it, or we're taking that information and it's actually going to come into play in a different episode, so we're going to change that line. So you come back and you do, you do that post ADR. So it's like, and it's tough to quantify for me, to be honest.
Gotcha. And we have so many more questions that I'd love to ask you, but I know our guys are running a little short on time here.
Oh,
so
no!
I know. I want to make sure we get through, get Sean one more and Max one more.
Yes, please.
And then
I'll try to be quicker with my answers, guys.
Oh, no, it's fine. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
No, Neil, I just had a quick question. Since our show is a lot about nostalgic cartoons and everything, and a lot of it is mandated on the idea of Saturday mornings and kind of enjoying that experience. When you were a kid, what was your favorite breakfast cereal that you would potentially watch cartoons with?
I don't know if I had a favorite cereal. I had favorite cartoons that I could tell you about. I mean, I was definitely I was kind of a soup kid, I bathe it in the milk and turn the cereal into soup, and you gotta get that just right amount of crunch level, where it's like,
exactly.
I can't wait too long and let it get soggy. So it's like, I'm a Jewish kid, so I grew up with Passover. You've got this stuff called farfel, and you'd put it on the top of soup, and it was basically crushed matzah, so you'd have this layer of crunchy getting slightly soggy. And so I adapted that style and used it for my, for my breakfast eating, routine. So I'd fill with milk and then just put a layer of the Cocoa Puffs on there,
Gotcha.
Let it sit and then skim it off and eat that and then put in another layer. Because if you just build the mound of cereal and drown it in liquid, you have this, hey, nice crunchy at the beginning, and then at the end it's this, the mush, I can't do this.
That is so smart. I've been eating cereal wrong for like 30 years.
Exactly.
I know.
I'm glad I was good for something.
No.
So, I mean, look,
Great advice.
there was a little while there that they had the extra dusty cereals, like the extra dusty Cocoa Puffs, so that you would turn your milk into chocolate.
Yeah, that was the best.
So you pour that out. Those were the ones that you had to do. Build the mountain, flood the town. Okay, you had to. Then you do that one.
That's great.
So okay, next.
Max, you want to step up?
Yes, this show is so great and fantastic, and it seems like on Twitter, like you said, I think a lot of people are responding very positively. I'm curious, how much did you talk with Joaquin and Lauren about like what the arc of your character was going to be in season 1, and then if you guys talked at all about a potential season 2 and what that might be like for Zarkon?
I will take the second part of your question first regarding season 2, and I will simply say if I have had those discussions or if I haven't had those discussions, I could not get into it because of a legally binding non-disclosure agreement.
Sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's fair enough.
So if people are interested in the second season, it's best if they politely ask Netflix and say, hey, we're enjoying this. Perhaps may we have another one? And then Netflix, in their infinite kindness and wisdom, will hopefully say, why, yes, dear consumer, because you matter so much to us. Yes, we will do that. And then if there is a season 2 that's been in production, it'll probably be announced. And if there's not a season 2 that's been in production, then they'll give us a call and say, hey, guys, guess what? We got some more stuff to do. So either which way, keep watching, because trust me, there's Easter eggs that y'all have missed.
I've gone through twice
So,
now. And I feel like I need to watch it again because there's still some stuff that I didn't.
Well, the greatest thing for me is that like I only got the scripts that Zarkon was in.
Right.
So I watched the episodes, several episodes, just like you guys did, knowing nothing, watching the story unfold. I mean, when I went to see the initial pilot with the rest of the cast, I basically made a bargain with myself. I said, remove the fact that you are in this from your brain, okay? Because that's done and in the can and over with.
Right.
Because if it's not good, you can't get out of it now. And if it's great, you can't tell anybody about it. So just sit back, be the sci-fi nerd that you've always been, be the cartoon-loving dork that you grew up being, and let's see if it works. And I sat there. And it worked for me. And I'm sitting there and I'm laughing at the silly jokes. I'm laughing at the smart jokes. I'm laughing at the smart, silly jokes.
Mm-hmm.
And trust me, the people who dismiss the humor in this are missing the point.
Yeah, they're just not getting it.
The people that are overly focused on whether or not Allura is piloting a lion are missing the point.
Right.
And forgetting that hopefully there will be more story to unfold. I mean, I've never understood this whole idea of we've done it before, now let's do it again exactly the same.
Exactly.
I grew up a musical theater kid, so I grew up on Broadway. I grew up with this idea of revivals are good because we now have different production styles and different production values, and my Fiddler on the Roof is going to be different than my dad's Fiddler on the Roof, and that's okay. And so this whole notion that people want the exact same thing that they had before, it's like, well, why don't you just go and watch that?
Yeah, exactly.
If that's
you're
what
preaching to the choir here. Yeah.
If that's what you loved, it still existed. Go and watch it. Hey, not everybody's going to love everything. I tell my students, the first thing you need to do is divorce yourself of this idea of being popular, because I can statistically show you how the most popular films in the history of the world are actually more unpopular than they are popular. Okay? There were more people that didn't see Avatar than saw Avatar.
That's a good point.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you don't make the movie for everybody. You just make the movie the best way you can, and people will enjoy it. And I've had people tweet at me with their disappointments, and I say, hey, I'm not going to try to force you to like it. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
I'm sorry you didn't. We did our best. Maybe you'll give us a try again, but thanks.
Well,
I
look,
appreciate it.
Sean and I have watched the original, the Americanized version, and also Beast King Go Lion, the original Japanese version. Honestly, this is just my words here, but I think this is the superior series. And that comes as a kid from the 80s who grew up with the toys, grew up watching this.
And
I've
heard that, and I've read that from many sources, and I appreciate it. And I know the talent that's on this show, and I'm not talking voice talent. I'm talking about the writers. I'm talking about the producers. I'm talking about the storyboard artists. I'm talking about the creature designers. You know, these people are all at the top of their games. You know, and if anybody thinks that any one of us is trying to do anything less than tell the best story the best way we can, they're wrong. And they can go ahead and say whatever they want and think whatever they want, and that's okay. You know, you can't please everybody, and you shouldn't worry about pleasing everybody. I hope more people like it than don't. But the people that don't like it, hey, you know, enjoy your path. I hope you find something that you do like.
That's perfect.
Right.
You know, I mean, I have a world of respect for Joaquin and Lauren and their storytelling abilities and their kindness as leaders, the respect that they show everybody on their team, voice actors, the engineer recording the session, okay, the casting associates, the production assistants, everybody is treated with a level of respect that pleases me so much and is, I don't want to say so rare in this industry, because that makes it sound like I know so much or I'm everywhere that I know everybody's business practice. I don't. But I've had professional situations that were not handled anywhere remotely close as respectfully and as professionally as I've been treated, and as professionally, as respectfully as I've seen every member of that team. You know, one of the greatest things about Voltron is it's about a team. And yet, at the same time, this show feels more like a team than almost anything else I've ever worked on.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And I also look on Twitter, and it's like this show, more than anything else I've ever worked on, is being shared by the team known as the family.
Yeah, that's great.
Right,
I've seen a lot of images about that.
I mean,
parents sharing with their kids. Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
And it's not that the parents are tolerating a kid's show.
No, not at all.
Right.
Or that the kids are able to watch that show. It was written with an intelligence and heart that is so open that it works for the whole family.
That's fantastic.
You know,
and unfortunately, I think we're gonna have to end it there. I know our team has to pack it up.
No problem, guys. I know I get kind of Kevin Smith verbose sometimes. I kind of keep going.
Must be that Jersey thing. I don't know what.
Yeah, you know, I think so. So why don't your people talk to my people, and we'll set up a follow-up if you're interested.
Sure, that'd be great. The only last thing I have to ask you is, so we do our weekly podcast, and we've kind of rotated through a couple different ways to end it. We would love it, and it's fine if you can't do this. Just let me know. We would love it if you could just say, thanks for listening to Saturday Morning Cartoons in whatever voice you feel like doing, if you want.
Alrighty. No. That's okay. I think I'll use something that that'll work on with this microphone that I'm using.
Sure.
All right. Now, does it have to be something I played?
Oh, it can be anything you want. Because I don't want to get you in legal trouble.
No. Well, legal trouble would be doing somebody else's character.
Oh, good point. Good point.
You know, legal trouble would be sitting there going, hey, I really love to talk to you guys, but I gotta go and train my dragon. Thanks for listening to Saturday Morning Cartoons. You guys are great.
It's a good thing we were laughing over that, so we could never use it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, so I can't do that because Jay might get a little upset.
Right.
You know. Gee, Neil, have you ever done that voice at DreamWorks?
Yeah.
Well, maybe once or twice. Anyway, yeah, exactly. But I suppose I could pull this one off of the heap. We'll see how this works for you. Hey, everybody. Thanks a lot for listening to Saturday Morning Cartoons. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to transform and roll out.
That was fucking amazing.
You guys recording?
So good.
Yeah, I just
like,
want to make sure we
silence.
give you a clean ending.
Now, just so you know, I realize that Peter doesn't sound like that anymore. That he actually sounds more like this. So if you want something to play for Saturday evenings at the movies, I would say freedom is the right of all sentient beings. Thank you for listening to Saturday Morning Cartoons. Yay!
That was so good.
That's amazing.
That's not even fair.
That's fantastic.
Neil, thank you so much again for taking time with us today. And yeah, you have my contact information. So
Yep.
if you, if we hear news about a second season and you want to catch up again or anything.
Or if you guys want to check in later on in the year when people have watched a little bit more.
Sure. Or hey, if you want to come on and talk about any cartoon that you love from your childhood, we roll through a ton of different cartoons. So we'd love to just have you on as a guest. Yeah.
Well, like I said, I feel bad about kind of having my brain fart, so I feel like I owe it to you guys. So just keep in contact and let me know. I'll be
much
happy.
appreciated. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Enjoy the rest
of
the day.
guys. Thank you.
Very much.
Bye-bye now.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. That is it. A huge thank you to Mr. Kaplan. If you're listening to his voice and you're thinking, what else has he been on? Definitely go check out his IMDb page. He's been in some excellent things, such as one of my favorite video games, BioShock Infinite. He was in the game Justice League Heroes as Gorilla Grodd. He's been on Naruto, Power Rangers, Transformers, Robots in Disguise as Optimus Prime. So definitely go find Mr. Kaplan on Twitter. He is at NEKAP. That's at Kneecap. Also, thanks again to Max Nicholson. You can go find him on IGN and Collider.com. He's also on Twitter at Max_Nicholson. As always, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Sean Paul Ellis. And you can find Dave for movie reviews and more on Collider.com. Check him out on Nerdist as their freelance science writer. And his fiction writing is up on DaveTrumbore.com. And you can always find him on Twitter at Dr. ClawMD. As for Saturday Morning Cartoons, we have a podcast that comes out each and every week, and you can find us on iTunes and Stitcher. Check us out on our Facebook page, Saturday Morning Cartoons, which you guys have been fantastic about posting. SaturdayMorningCartoons.com. And if you want to drop us an email, we're at SaturdayMorningCartoons@gmail.com. Remember, Saturday Morning Cartoons, that is morning with you. Next week is going to be our final week of Voltron, and we are rounding it out with the OG of the entire series. That's right. Next week, we are getting into Beast King Go Lion, so we will see you next week. Thanks for listening.
Hey, everybody. Thanks a lot for listening to Saturday Morning Cartoons. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to transform and roll out.